Hi, I'm Brandon,
And I'm Hamish.
and you are Between Two Commits. Now, Hamish, I hear that you wanted to talk about Hacktoberfest today.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about this in one of our
A while back. Well,
previous
actually, it was
chats.
probably in at the end of October that you mentioned it last
Yeah,
time.
that's true. Yeah.
Because
So
you were
it
talking about that
happened.
you were actually doing it, and now you want to talk about how, like, what happened.
Yeah, it was kind of a funny experience for me. So yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, I can share my screen really quick here. Hacktoberfest is this yearly thing. I don't actually know how many years they've done it now. But GitHub, DigitalOcean, Twilio, they kind of all get together and they sponsor this event where, like it says here, you support open source and you get a free T-shirt. So the idea is that you're supposed to contribute to 5 open source repositories, any sort of contribution, and they'll send you a T-shirt. And it's just to kind of encourage people to get involved in open source and break down some of those barriers. And there's lots of efforts on their side too to like help repositories and open source people make that easier, right? So tagging issues is like easier to pick up for newbies and stuff like that. So yeah, I'd heard about it before, and I think I didn't participate last year, but I saw it again and thought, oh, that'd be fun. So yeah, so I decided to give it a shot.
Sounds like a pretty good deal.
Yeah, exactly.
That
I go
that number
shirt.
5 on the website, does that mean it's the 5th year it's been going on, or?
Yeah, I guess so. I feel like I have heard about it. It's just always been like, oh, that sounds like fun, but I just never.
I've heard about
never
it
had a
too,
chance.
like for a while now. So it must
Yeah.
have been around for a bit.
Yeah, I think they gave out something like 30,000 shirts last year. I don't know what the numbers are this year.
30,000.
Yeah, just
Man,
some
what?
wild number like that. Yeah. So yeah,
I know it's a service to the community, but like, what do they get out of it? Like, is it just the advertising? Like,
yeah, I think it must be just the
who has the
advertising. I mean,
budget for
like
30,000 shirts?
they must get a good bulk discount for that many shirts.
They must.
Like a buck a shirt or something or less. Who knows? Yeah, I'm actually just looking at the stats. I know I stopped screen sharing, but like I guess there were 46,000 people this year that completed. So just wild. Yeah, they even have like a chart. We'll definitely put this in the show notes. So it's interesting to see like just the participation that came from that. So yeah, well, but my story is funny. So I told myself that I wanted to do it. I mentioned it to you one of the times that we chatted, and and I was in a funny situation because where I work, we actually have a number of open source repositories that are like our code base, and they're open source, but they don't really, like, if you pulled the code down, you would be missing like other parts of our infrastructure. So it's more just there as like a demonstration, and yeah, but it's open source. So I'd made a couple commits just as part of my day job, and or made a couple PRs and stuff as part of my job, and those counted. So when I signed up for Hacktoberfest, it was like, you have 3 out of 5. And I kind of laughed and I was like, okay, well, that's cool. So I just have like 2 more and I can get this free shirt. And it sounded like fun. So I kind of started to like look through. They have a directory where you could like pull up GitHub issues that were like tagged like Hacktoberfest.
Okay.
And I went through a whole bunch of those. And, some of them were like, a lot of them that would say like Hacktoberfest, and you'd read it and be like, I need to understand so much context to like be able to pick this up. I don't know anything about this repository. So a lot of them are pretty daunting like that, especially because I think at this point it had like 2 weeks or so left in the month of October, and you have to finish it right by October 31st. So I was like, I don't know. I'm not sure if I can find something to do, but I ended up doing like 2 really random things, or 2 very like different things. So the first one that I found was this one repository for it was called Zeta Glest or something like that. The name, I'll have to look it up after. It was someone's like port of a video game, and the issue was they needed like a logo done. They needed to take the old logo and like make it more modern or something like that. Okay. And I was like, oh, okay, that like, and no one had commented on it. And that was another thing too. Like, you'd see an issue and think, oh, that's perfect, but there'd be a comment saying, I've got this. Like, some person participated.
They call dibs, basically.
Yeah, they already got dibs, right? So didn't feel right to try and beat someone to the punch on that. So yeah, this one had no comments on it, and I thought, okay, I'll take a stab at this.
Yeah, and this is your area, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I like pulled the code down. I hacked up a little design that was like not like amazing, but it was something, and I made a PR for it. And as soon as you do that, then it counts. Like, even if it isn't merged, they consider it like you tried to contribute.
Right, right.
And within a day or so, the the owner of the repository was like, "Oh, thank you. We actually have someone already made one that we were going to use," or something like that. So he didn't even like merge the PR. It was like, "Oh, we already got something else, but thanks for doing this anyway." So I felt kind of dumb. I was like, "Oh, I probably could have found that out if I'd looked a bit deeper into this." But that was number 4. So at this point, I had one more to do, and
And you
I
have
thought to
to,
myself,
right? I mean,
yeah, and I'm
you're
like, I got
already
to do
there.
this. Yeah, right. I have like the home stretch, right? One more PR to make. So, and this is when I found one on the Gatsby JS repository. So
Okay, okay.
yeah, and this one was kind of cool. It was like, actually, let me clarify. I didn't actually find an issue on the Gatsby repository. I I went out of my way to find something I could do to make a pull request on the site. Um,
So
and I
you
remember,
like you discovered it, or rather you actively searched for it in the code base.
yeah, and Gatsby, like they were for Hacktoberfest, they had a ton of issues, and they had like even like big, they had like a ticket in their GitHub that was like um, just like talking about all these like improvements to the documentation they were looking for, and there was lots of activity because it's a very popular repository. So there were lots of commits being made, lots of things were being claimed. So I couldn't, again, I had the same problem. I couldn't find anything that was like seemed like small enough in scope that I could get it done in a reasonable amount of time, and that wasn't claimed by someone else, right? So what I did was I started like just scrolling through the site and like looking at the documentation and like looking for like even like a typo, or something, but it was like immaculate because everyone had already looked over for like the low-hanging fruit. So I couldn't find anything. And there were some like documentation pieces that could be written, but again, like to write a full page of documentation, it wasn't against it, but it was like, okay, like, is there something a bit more like, straightforward that I could do? And I ended up on the homepage, and on the homepage they have this like really cool graphic. Let me just pull it up here. JS, share my screen. Let's see here. So yeah, so on their page they have this kind of this animation almost. They talk about how Gatsby works, which is like it takes the data sources, it's powered by GraphQL, and then once that's done, it can be deployed to all of these like various hosts.
Okay.
And what I noticed was these hosts here were not links. They were just like plain text. So now.sh, GitHub Pages, Netlify.
Oh.
Yeah, it was just plain text. And actually, I was actually at the point right then where I'd been thinking about building my own site with Gatsby, and I'd wanted to know like how to deploy it. And when I came here, I kind of expected, I'd just be able to click on these, but I couldn't. I have to like go up here and like click on the docs and find the deploy section. So my idea was like, like why not just make these links, because there's like a documentation page for each one of these, right? So that's what I did. So I made a PR, I added these as links, and yeah, and it was accepted. It took a little while. There's a bit of back and forth. One of the contributors on Gatsby came back and was like, it might be good to like, because Gatsby's all about like storing data in the GraphQL, right? So he's like, why don't you put these like in like a JSON file, and then we can run a GraphQL query to pull them and then render them out into the code. So like if someone wants to add a new one, they don't have to go into the view file. They can just add like another line to this database or whatever, right? So it's like the GraphQL, the Gatsby way, which I thought was kind of cool. And so I made some tweaks to do that, and then it kind of was left for a while. I mean, it was probably like a month after Hacktoberfest that it was actually finally merged, but yeah, that was it. So I hit 5. I got 5 by the end of the month. The PR was in. I knew even if they didn't accept it, which they did eventually, but if they didn't, I still had the 5. I was like, cool, I got in.
Dang, cool.
Yeah.
But hey, and even better, one of them did get accepted.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like I had the 3 from work, the one that was just like a throwaway graphic that wasn't needed but was appreciated, I guess, and then kind of what actually felt like and it's on the homepage of Gatsby, right? So anyone now going to the homepage of Gatsby sees my tiny contribution, right? It's not a huge thing, but it's just like a little little extra user experience thing. So
I was on the homepage of Gatsby today. I was showing one of my coworkers that
nice,
about it, like because he never heard of it, and I'm like, okay, here you go. And then I showed, and I saw that little graphic there, and I didn't know that you're the one who did all those links at the bottom.
You know what? You're talking to the man right himself. I'm pretty much famous in the, and it's honestly Gatsby does. It's an amazing job. They have like people that are like dedicated to the open source side of their company. Like they have a corporate side of the company, I think, does like consulting. I don't really know exactly. Like they support people who want to like build with Gatsby like on a more like corporate level. But but the experience was so cool. Like once your PR comes in, they like add you to the organization. If they make you part of like the contributor team, you're like you can then like participate in like chats about the future of Gatsby and stuff. I mean, it's really interesting. Like they really bring you in, and like I've not been very involved, like, but I could in theory like go and like review the PRs now and have like more of a say on like stuff in Gatsby. So I'm sure like of course I wouldn't be like on the same level as like a core contributor, but it's like it's they welcome you in and say thanks for your contribution. And just to add like a cherry on top, when you contribute to Gatsby, completely separate from Hacktoberfest, they also send you swag and send you a t-shirt. So
oh dang.
So I thought to myself, and this is where the story gets kind of fun. I thought, oh great, I've got 2 shirts coming now because I'm going to get the Hacktoberfest one, and I'm going to get the Gatsby one. So that didn't quite happen. So this is kind of the funny part of the story. So, a few months, it was probably like a month or 2 later, maybe more. It took a while. My shirt for the Hacktoberfest finally shipped, and I got the notification. I think I got an email that was like, please pick your size or something. So I filled out the form and eventually it shipped. But when it came in the mail, it was completely destroyed. Like the shirt was completely destroyed. I have to pull it up. I have a picture of it, of what it looked like.
Heck?
Yeah, this completely caught me surprised. I got this package left at my doorstep, which was wrapped in this envelope. So Canada Post had like the actual package, which was just one of those soft ones where you put a t-shirt in, was completely ripped up. So Canada Post had put it in sort of like a shell, like a plastic shell.
So wait, did they destroy it? Like,
I don't know. Like
this is en route.
It must have been en route. Like it looks like I'll show you what it looks like, and I want to get your feelings on this. Like, actually, one of the saddest parts is that like I tweeted about it, but no one replied to the tweet, and I tagged like Hacktoberfest and I tagged Canada Post, just why not? But like, not a single reply, complete crickets. But yeah, here let me just open this image up. Okay, share screen. See. And again, for our viewers, if anyone's listening in audio, just imagine a shirt that's completely mangled, and I'll have Brandon describe what he sees, and he can tell me. Yeah. So how would you describe that shirt right there?
Oh man, what the heck? It looks like, okay, it looks like you got shot and then run over by a truck,
right?
And then shot again in the same wound hole. Oh, and a dog bit off your shoulder or something.
Yeah. Yeah, so this shirt, it's got the same colors and look as Hacktoberfest, a nice burgundy background, the blue logo. It is, it's completely mangled. It's like Brandon said, it's got like this gunshot wound in it with like grease on it, like it was pulled it through like a machine and then spit out, and the shoulder's completely almost completely ripped off. Like it was in bad shape, and it was very wrinkled and bunched and like water damage. It was just it was weird. So. Yeah, that's what happened. I was very disappointed. Like, I was really bummed that, like, I went through, I mean, and I'll admit, like, I wasn't, like, grinding every night for, like, these huge PRs, right? Like, I clearly was trying to take a bit of a shortcut, but I still worked to try and get this.
Exactly.
And to kind of come to this and then get the shirt, like, completely mangled and then get no response on social media, which, to be fair, maybe wasn't the best channel, but, and you can see just
sometimes it is.
That picture. Yeah, right. I thought it would get some attention, but if you look, you can see in the top right of the picture, there's like the container there. So this one, I think, is the original one it came in. So, I mean, look at that; it's just completely chewed up. Like, I just don't know what happened.
It must have like fallen off the baggage cart on the airplane and then got run over by the airplane, and then some guy on the tarmac just like oh crap, and then they picked it up and throw it into the plane. Oh, they're like, well, just send it to him anyways.
Yeah, I'm amazed it made it to me. Like, I'm shocked that it didn't just get like thrown in the garbage.
I imagine there's not much they can do other than send it to you, because they don't know first of all if it's damaged without looking inside. I mean, they can guess, but they don't know what to do if it is damaged. It's probably just up to you to figure out, like, okay, I gotta return it or I gotta get it exchanged or whatever. But man, that's a bummer.
Yeah, so you're right. I think you're right. It's just sort of like the note. So the package around it, the plastic like envelope, was just like, this is how we found it. We're sorry, we're not responsible. Roughly.
So you're saying it might be on the US postal side.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, well, we're not responsible as in like it may be our fault, but we're not responsible. Like this stuff can happen and we have no liability here. So like, you know,
Gosh.
yeah.
Okay.
It's just like
Wait, that's the end of the story? Like, did they send you a new one? Did what happened?
well, yeah, I just you know what, a few weeks after this I got my Gatsby shirt and it's a great shirt and it's super comfy and I was happy about that and I kind of just forgot about this. So I still would love to get, you know, an actual shirt. I probably I should just send an email to like DigitalOcean. I think they're like the primary sponsors of the event, but
Yeah.
it just feels like it's so far past now. It's been like 6 months or something. Not quite 6 months, but you know, it's been a while. So like, I don't know if I kind of feel like they'll
Maybe
say,
they have one lying around left over. Like,
yeah, like,
okay, let's just send him that one. It's the wrong size, but we'll send it to him. He wanted it, so
right. I thought that,
we
you
don't
know,
want it lying around, so we'll just send it to him. I don't know. It's possible.
right. Yeah. If they haven't like already been like donated or like, you know, sold, like I'm sure you would think that they'd like do a big run of shirts and have like they'd round it up, you know, like if 46,000 people
Oh,
participated, they'd get
absolutely.
like
Yeah.
50,000 shirts or something. But I have no idea how many shirts they have. But yeah, that's the story. It's kind of funny. It was a good experience.
That's
Again, I was
unfortunate.
really bummed, but yeah.
Did you keep the tattered remains? Kind of like a, I don't know, as a prop or something like.
You know, I think it's around here somewhere. I kept it for a while. It was like just by my desk, and I'd see it every once in a while. I think I tucked it out of sight because I was like, this is kind of depressing. But, but
What was the logo portion salvageable? Maybe you could like cut that out or something.
like it, yeah. If you don't mind the grunge look, like some of it's there.
Hey, some
It's
people
got like
are into
grease on
that
it or
stuff.
something too. So yeah, I mean, it's like I don't
Oh,
really
it
want to
totally
like,
fell off a truck. It must have, like,
yeah, right, yeah, truck, and then it got like
or yeah,
stabbed.
it must have gotten caught in machinery, hence the
Yes,
oil, and
yeah.
then the spinning gears or something just ripped it up. I don't know. That's too bad.
I mean, I laughed about it. Like it was funny, but it was also like really sad. So
And the Gatsby shirt does it look good? Like,
yeah, I
are
like
you
it.
wearing it now?
Oh yeah, no, I'm not. It should be. That'd be a good tie to the
Oh
story. But
yeah, that,
yeah,
that
the
would that
Gatsby
would be
shirt,
cool.
the Gatsby stuff is great.
It's because they have a good site design, and I think if I recall correctly, their logo is pretty nice. So, I mean,
Yeah, I ended up getting so yeah. Once you contribute, basically what Gatsby does is they let's share my screen again. So yeah, they give you like a coupon code, so you can buy one of their shirts for $10.
oh,
Just
nice.
anyway, but this is the one I got. So I could have got this vintage one too, but I'm kind of like a fan of like the dark tones, so I thought I'd get this more like muted thing. But yeah, they even say it right here, right? So for if you're a contributor, you actually log in with your GitHub to sort of like validate your account, and they can prove that you've made a PR, right? And then yeah, or it's like, hey, if you want a free shirt, explore open issues here, and so you should do it. It's fun. Maybe there's something in there you can.
I'm definitely considering. Open source is something I've been really wanting to get into, but it seems like I never have the time to. The whole context thing you were talking about, right? Like the amount of time it takes to get into a large code base, read it, analyze it, see what it does, how it works, what the formatting is, and then submit your little contribution. I don't know. It's something I've been wanting to do but haven't had a chance to do. I did do once. It's a project by Facebook. They have a whole bunch of little open source projects, and one of them is called Facebook Path Picker.
Yeah.
Basically, when you let's say you grep multiple files for a certain string, you might get a dozen results that come out, and possibly with the line number on the front. What Facebook Path Picker does is you can take the results of the grep or some other command that does something similar and pipe it into FPP, and you can it'll open like this command line of this terminal how do I say it this terminal selection window, and you can open certain of the files, and it'll open the files and jump to that appropriate line directly.
Okay.
It's just a simple tool. It's a little made in Python, and that's all it does. It's very simple, and it does one thing and does it well, I think.
Yeah.
But I noticed their support for Vim was a little bit, not very developed. Because what would happen is it would open up properly, but it wouldn't jump to the line. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of a bummer. So I looked up how to do it, and I saw that literally you change like one line of code, or maybe two or three.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, I could try this. So I did the whole procedure. I did it. I submitted the pull request, and they're like, oh, this is great. Could you tweak this little part here so that it's a little more compliant, and after that, make sure that it fulfills all the tests. And I'm like, sure, great. I did it, and they accepted it. So my name was like on it, and then so that's my one open source experience.
Claim to fame. Hey, it's not much different for me, honestly. I think like the Gatsby one really is my only. I've had maybe a few others in the past, but it's been so long. I think I contributed something to Angular JS.
Oh, really?
But
Man,
it was a long time
for
ago.
the big ones, huh?
I don't know how that happened. It may have been like a documentation fix. Like, don't get too excited. It wasn't like I was contributing to the core library. I think I just like improved the documentation, which is still a good thing to do, but it's a different type of contribution.
One of my coworkers, he's not a developer, but he was really itching to have some sort of contribution to the Bitcoin repository.
Yeah,
he's like, I gotta have my name on there somehow. I just need to. And he came up to me and he's practically begging me for information. He's like, how can I get my name on it? How can I contribute something? I can't code, but is there something I can do? And I'm like, well, okay, maybe if you tweak some of the documentation, improve it, fix the grammar, punctuation, maybe even the content. He is knowledgeable in that, so I'm like, maybe you can do that. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna give it a try. And so he pours through the documentation, and he finally finds a few pages that, because like you said for Gatsby, it's very well maintained. People are pouring through it all the time. So he's like, man, everyone's beating me to this. But he finally found a few pages that he can tweak, and he submitted the pull request. And I think the developers are like, they're kind of cluing in on what he's trying to do. They're like, we don't really need this change, but
yeah.
And I think this one's a little too nitpicky, but okay, fine. Why don't you do this and this, and then we'll accept it. And he's like, yes. And so his name is on the repository and one of the contributors, and now he can brag about it.
That's so
I should never have helped him, because now he still brings it up once in a while. He's like, I'm a Bitcoin core contributor, and we're like, yeah, we know.
That's so funny.
But see, my style of development, this is probably everyone's style of development, but I like creating the new stuff, right? Like everyone likes that. And so what I would really like one day is to start a really cool project and be like, I don't know, the the community organizer for all of this. But
and have people coming to you, right, to contribute versus like,
sure,
that could be cool.
Or like, not even necessarily that, but like just be be responsible for the new stuff, But that's that's for one day, right?
Yeah, one day, totally. Yeah, no. But
Speaking of which, like I have a long list of project ideas I've been wanting to either try out or at least experiment with. And at some point we should work together and just pull out a few ones, like a few of them, some just small projects, and just pop out a few and say, hey, this is one. And if it gets any traction with anybody, then we'll be like, hey, maybe this is something that can get big or even medium.
Yeah. I like that idea.
But yeah, so I had a few ideas, but maybe I won't mention them now. I'll save it for another time.
Yeah, I'm excited though. Yeah, we'll put it on our list. Another thing to
We should do
discuss.
some pair programming at some point.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think we should. I asked my friend Justin how he does, because I know we've kind of hummed and hawed about how we wanted to record these podcast episodes, and um, obviously we're gonna have audio. We also want to have video for YouTube, which we'll have uploaded. But yeah, my friend Justin does a good job of like he'll have like a video chat with someone, and they'll have like, I know he uses OBS. You got to set up. He can like show his screen, show their screen, and we kind of tried that. It was hard to kind of get right, so maybe we can. I just sent him a message today and said, hey, like, what's your setup? So I'll see what he says. I think maybe he might use like a combo of like Skype and OBS. And I just saw him have a chat with someone the other day though, and he was like switching between his view and like a nice split screen, and like they're and like sharing history and all this kind of stuff, and it was all running pretty well. So yeah, I was just curious how he did that, but yeah, but I'd love to pair program. That'd be super fun. Like just have that kind of, yeah, we could probably do something kind of like this. Just one of us share the screen and just kind of go through it there. So a friend of mine who I met at a conference here not too long ago has started streaming on Twitch, like just live streaming coding, which I thought
I've heard of that. I've heard of live streaming coding, and I'm like, how many people actually watch that? I mean, I think it has to be like, because for, I mean, this obviously started with the gaming world, right? And
yeah,
gaming is something that people watch, you know, sometimes. Well, before that, I suppose they didn't, but like even before the internet, you know, you have a bunch of people at the console, at the TV, and the friends at the party are, you know, sitting there watching it, right? So this is something people watch, and if you get the good personality, like the commentators, the the wild personalities,
the jokester,
yeah, the jokesters, exactly. And that can be really entertaining and fun to watch. And then people are like, well, let's try other things. I know people do art.
Yeah, that's a big one too.
Doing art. Actually, I can see where the coding part comes in, because for the art, it's like you can see this thing unfold in front of your eyes, right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, how do you go from nothing, complete blank canvas, to something beautiful, right?
It's that process.
Yeah, exactly. For code, I mean, I can see it, but less so, you know, because
it depends on the project, I think, too. Like if I'm gonna sit down and like, because if you're gonna sit down and code an entire site or something, or some big project, that's gonna take a lot longer than like a single session. So it's like,
yeah,
someone might watch you for an hour, and you may be working on like one page or one piece. And I don't know. It depends on your goals. Like there are people that I watch occasionally that I know live stream. Like Kenzie Dodds does a great job of this. He has like his like, especially now that he's like left PayPal and he has like his full-time gig where he's just like teaching and training and stuff. His live streams are super cool. And honestly, one of my dreams is like to have this podcast get to the point where we can like have someone like him on to talk or something. I think it'd be really cool. But
hey, Kent, if you're listening, come talk to us.
Yeah, exactly.
We'd love to chat with you. You're an inspiration to us.
Yeah, exactly. He is. But he does a great job of like live streaming when he does work, because he'll just sort of like it, and I've seen this before, like they'll just sort of talk through what they're working on. Like, and I think it's like what you said about the art. Like people like to see the mental process you go through. And a lot of times too, I've noticed this at work, like I'll share my screen with a coworker to like teach something or to explain something. And they'll be like, oh, what'd you just do there? What was that? Or how did that work? And there's usually like tangent things you can talk about. Like, oh yeah, I use this like command in my terminal. It like speeds my development up because I do this and that. Or how did you do that in your text editor? Like that's a cool extension. What does that do? And so on, or just, yeah, things like that I found useful. So I think people like to watch live streaming, and I have done too, just to like see what are the things that people do. And yeah, going back to Kent, like he gets lots of the same questions, which I think is why he's got like his own like AMA on his GitHub, where you can just see like all the questions he gets, and he has like answers there. Like what editor do you use and what font do you use, and all the he has like them all. They're all like the stock answers there because he has those questions a lot. But yeah, I think like seeing someone work is like, it can be a great opportunity to learn, right? If they're explaining what they're doing. And
yeah,
so yeah, I think we should do that. I think that would be really fun. I think for it to be valuable, it's helpful to kind of like, yeah, have a focused goal. Like the things that Kent has done that I really like is like, he's like, I'm using this feature of React to build this small thing, right? I think those are more valuable than like a
the comments, the commentary is useful. Like I think that really adds to it. It's kind of like Bob Ross, except a lot
yeah.
less visually appealing, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But in this case, you're learning, right? You're learning how to do it. I'm curious, in some of these live streams, do they have someone else that's talking with them, or is it just all like just themselves and then maybe the comment streams on the side?
Yeah, that's a good question. I haven't seen a lot. The ones I have seen, usually it's just them. So the friend of mine that I mentioned that had just started live streaming, though, his was a bit different because he actually there was no video of her, but you could hear her voice. Like he was on a call with someone. I think it may have been a coworker, and she was also like popping into the chat. And I think, so he was doing that where he was just like having a conversation, and he would be like coding something, and then she would say, "Oh, I think it's this," or "I'm looking up the documentation on that right now." You know, like they're kind of doing this like pair programming thing, which was cool. But that I haven't seen as much. But maybe that's more of a niche thing we can do, you know, because most people I think, seem to do it solo. It's like which makes sense. Like if you have one person, it's hard. Like you can't have four hands on the keyboard, so it's like someone has to drive, so to speak. But but the commentary could be enhanced, I think, with two people and having that kind of back and forth, and so.
And maybe for these hypothetical people, like it could be a different person every session, right? And you just get the diversity of the voices going on and perspectives on it. I just had a whole bunch of thoughts that came into my mind. Well, first of all, pair programming is awesome. Like I don't know how often do you do it in your, because your work is mostly remote, right? So do you not do it very often then?
Not enough. I mean, I feel like we do it, but it's like I don't know. Yeah, I feel like I feel like this is actually a great topic. We should talk about this more. I don't even know how I would exactly define pair programming, because I've had calls where I'm like talking about code I've written, and to some degree I've written some code on a call. I've gone in depth with people sometimes, but I haven't I feel like I haven't really done a pure pair programming session where like, you know, two people have a goal and they're going to kind of work on it, and someone obviously is kind of in the hot seat and is coding, but you know, there's a bit of back and forth that I haven't really done enough. And I think actually that would be really valuable for the team that I'm on with some newer developers. And I mean, time zones can be hard. We're all kind of in different time zones with people like in Europe, so it's often like I'm coming on as they're signing off, but
right.
But that's not the case for everyone. So yeah, I think I don't know. Is that something that you've done very much at your job?
Not very much, but recently. First of all, I think what you're describing, what you've done, is more like code review.
Right.
I mean,
yeah,
you're both looking at a piece of code that's already been written, and you're both commenting on it and analyzing the good parts and the bad parts and what needs to be updated. But yeah, what you're describing, pure pair programming, you could start off with existing code and update it, or you're starting from scratch and writing something. You're usually there's one person in the one person driving and the other person navigating, essentially. And the whole concept is that two heads are better than one, right? Case in point, I've been working on something at work literally for the last 3 weeks, like almost a month.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's been driving me crazy. Okay. Anyways, I can't really describe what it is because it would take a long time to describe. I work with blockchain stuff at work, and there's something we wanted to implement, and it literally should have taken one afternoon. But for some reason, we just kept hitting roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, and fortunately, my team is very, very understanding, and they're all. I mean, it was mainly my responsibility, but they're all supporting me in this. They're all like, okay, maybe if I start up another machine and do this, and maybe if I download this part, I'm like, okay, great. So we're all working on it. And then as last week we hired a new developer, and he and I worked together at this company. He previously worked with us. He left, and then just this last week he rejoined the team.
Nice.
And so the first day we were pair programming, and I'm sitting in the driver's seat. I'm showing him pieces of code things that we've tried. He's like, great. And then at the end of all this explanation, he's like, what about doing this? Literally with one or two words, he solved our problem. It was so, I'm like, where were you like 3 weeks ago? Gosh. And
that's so interesting. Yeah.
It took a while to test it and to finalize the implementation, but I mean, we were done by the next day. And even now, I'm still just hitting myself over the head because of it. But
I know that feeling. But totally.
Seriously, pair programming, not only is it more effective, and I believe there are studies to back that up, but don't quote me on that. But it's more fun. Just not only because I don't know how to describe this, because one of the reasons I became a programmer, not only because I love computers and I've always worked on computers and so on and so forth, but I thought that one of the biggest reasons I became a developer was so that I could be in my own little bubble, right? So I can just be by myself, quiet.
Your world,
yeah. I have my own little environment here. It's either quiet or I have some music or something, and I just sit there and I focus and I type, and that's it. And yet, every time I've pair programmed, I'm like, that went so much better than when I'm alone, and that was more fun than when I'm alone. I was able to concentrate better than when I'm alone. Obviously, it depends. It matters who it is, because I've pair programmed once or twice where the other person was just kind of, they didn't get the point of it. They're like, they're a little impatient, or they're like, I could be doing something else, or maybe I'm slowing you down, or whatever. So
a little uncomfortable. Yeah.
Aside from those rare exceptional cases, pair programming has always been better and more enjoyable. And yeah, and again, the basic concept is two heads are better than one, right? So it's not the speed of typing that matters in any project. It's how fast can one or two of you develop the idea, develop the concept, and realize it, and create code that's relatively bug free, right? And so that's one of the things. So one of the persons is focused on the typing, and the other one is more the navigator, so they see more of the big picture. They're also watching to see if you do any typos, which happens a lot. They're like, they see things that that you don't see because you're focused on the typing, right?
It's like a human linter.
exactly And that the importance or the value of that cannot be overstated. So I'm a believer, and yeah, we should totally do it. Now, doing it online, that's something I have less experience with.
Yeah, and that's I'm almost exclusively experienced in that, which is funny. So like, we should do it. I think, well, we have our website we're working on. Maybe we can like take some time next week, for example, to pair on some of the work there, and just kind of, we could record it too, or stream it, or it doesn't have to be an episode per se, because it's obviously a very visual format that wouldn't work quite well in a podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be fun. I think like having that, just a chance to kind of hack together.
You mentioned like having 4 hands at a keyboard. Now, like I said, normally only one person is at the keyboard at a time, and the other person usually doesn't have a computer. Usually they're just focused on your screen as well, and you're both talking. Sometimes they have their own computer and they look things up. So they're like, oh, how do you write this again? And the other one will look it up, right?
Yeah.
Or yeah, open the documentation, something like that. Although perhaps online, what we could do is we could use Tmux. Have you? I mean, I know you used Tmux before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you familiar with attaching to an already open session?
I have never done that, but I've heard of it. Does that allow like multiple
Yes.
cursors?
No,
Like,
it doesn't. I thought you were going to say allow both people to type. No,
okay.
it doesn't have multiple cursors. So if two terminals are connected to the same session,
Yeah.
basically you're fighting over
Right.
control.
Okay. So it's like two people with the
So
same steering wheel kind of thing, right? Like
exactly.
they're, yeah.
So the same principle would apply. I mean, only one of you is really typing at one time, but you see
Yeah.
the updates live as if you're streaming your screen over to the other person.
I like that idea a lot. And I actually have an idea. I'd love to try that, first of all, because it sounds really cool. I also want to try this Visual Studio thing, which is like they call it like live share. And I think it's like the Google Docs. Like I think we can both actually type at the
Yes,
same time.
yes, that one has multiple cursors.
Yeah.
I remember when it came out a few years back, and the reason is because a few years back, I was working at a company that was trying to do like a Google Docs type of thing, and
Oh,
so
right on. Yeah.
I was always having my eyes and ears open
You're
for
like,
other products that do something similar. I'm like, Visual
yeah.
Studio does that now. You've heard of Collab Edit, right?
Maybe.
Collab Edit is an online notepad that supports multiple cursors, real-time editing, and
That's cool.
it's mainly geared for developers. It's basically you share code. Um, in an old world, it would have been ideal for tutoring and teaching programming. Nowadays, you have far better tools for that, but
That's cool though. Yeah.
it would have syntax highlighting and monospace fonts and stuff like that. But a lot of software is based off of the same software that Collab Edit is based on.
That's cool. Yeah.
Etherpad was one of the originals.
Oh, that name sounds familiar. Yeah.
Etherpad was like basically not the original, but one of the original multi-cursor real-time editing platforms. And again, it was just very simple. Notepad, maybe bold, italic, underline. Later on, they kind of squeezed in images. And Google tried to take this, they bought it, and they tried to use that as the basis for Google, what later became Google Docs. Didn't quite work out because it was a little too simplistic for what they were hoping. So they abandoned it. They made it open source, and they went with something else. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's cool.
But this became the basis for a lot of other things like Collab Edit, and I'm pretty sure, at least inspirationally, this became one of the bases for Visual Studio's system. But theirs is far more complicated now. They have not only the multi-editing, but shoot, I forgot. Everything else in Visual Studio is available as features for this.
Yeah,
it's very complex.
Yeah, we'll have to try this. This sounds really cool. Yeah, like commenting and stuff. Yeah, that sounds really neat. Yeah, let's give this a shot sometime. And the Tmux idea is cool too, because you could of course share an entire like terminal session, right? So that's got even more.
Yeah, I was thinking. Okay, I was thinking first of all, because that one you don't have to install anything new. I mean,
yeah,
we can probably find a server that we can both log into. We both attach using Tmux to the same session, and we're using port forwarding, SSH tunnels to see visually what the result is. So we have a Gatsby server, for example, running on the server, and we use an SSH tunnel so that we can see locally the updated version of the code. I don't know.
That's cool. Yeah.
We could try it.
Yeah, would someone be able to be like, I have to figure this out. Like someone would run it and host it, right? Then you'd have to tunnel so the other person could like,
Yeah. Or it could be an independent server that we both log into, right?
Right. Yeah. Either way, that's really cool. Yeah, we should definitely try something like that.
And it's running the development server, and normally it's running on like a local port 3000 or something. But if you SSH tunnel it, then you could have it on your local host port 3000 and see exactly what's going on the server, and it's updating live the moment you save, and so the hot reloading. So I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I think that's worth trying out next time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'd love that.
Okay, so let's see. We've talked about open source development. We've talked about pair programming. Should we call it an hour? How long have we been going for?
Yeah, I got about 50 minutes. I think it's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should stop it right here.
Yeah, that feels good. I'm always good to not like force it to be too long. You know, it's nice to have a conversation. And
yeah, exactly.
Thanks everyone for listening. This is we're excited to get more into this and to share and to learn together. And I think it's fun. Like we call this between two commits, and so it'll be a lot of just a little mix of what we do in our spare time, which funny enough happens to be a lot of nerdy stuff because we're programming, and then we're between the programming, we're programming a little bit more sometimes, but there'll be a mix of stuff.
Really, our job is what we do in between this, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I love it. I'm excited to talk more about that. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining us today.
Oh, and don't forget to join us at between2commits.com.
Yep, check it out. It's going to have all the information, show notes, episodes, everything will be up there. So yeah. See y'all later.
See ya.